Jay Tactical here today, and I'm going to show you how to change out your trigger connector to a lone wolf 3.5 pound trigger connector. The Glock comes with a factory 3.5 pound trigger connector, but when we put in the lone wolf, I'll show you the difference and show you why you would want to do this. After making this modification, I would suggest this weapon to be only a range toy. The trigger will be very light in it, and if you look at my previous video, I have I Love My Glock trigger spring and recoil spring installed already in it. Also, a recent outing with Personal Defense, we had someone go with us and they used his Glock that had the same modification. If you let somebody else shoot this weapon, please make sure that you let them know that the trigger is very light on it, so they're not scared and they are prepared to handle the weapon accordingly. So the first thing we want to do is a safety check, because safety is no accident. Then we will want to field strip the weapon. And then we want to take our roll of electric tape. It's my preferred method. It's a great time to use your Glock tool. If you don't have a Glock tool, you can use a punch to press out the pins. These pins, after a couple times, should be fairly easy to push in and out. If you're forcing them or having to use a mallet, something probably is not lined up correctly, because they are fairly easy to push in and out. So I like to start with the top pin. Here's your bottom pin, here's your top pin. Top pin I'm just going to push straight down. And it pulls out. When you do the bottom pin, the best way to do this is, as you're pushing down, you want to lift your slide release up and down and wiggle it as you're pushing down. That will help it push straight out. Just like that. There's the pin. And then you want to take out your third back pin. Once you're done with that, you can pull out your slide release. And then you can take out this part, use your Glock tool, and set it in behind and start slowly prying it up. Slides out pretty easily. And then you can pull out your trigger assembly. And it pretty much just slowly lifts out. There we go. Set your frame to the side. Okay, so here is your trigger assembly removed. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice is that this is the connector that we're going to change. When you set it, you're going to slide it back and you'll feel it click. Just like that. And we're going to change out that connector. See, it pretty much holds itself. A little bit of pressure to it and it'll flip off. So we're going to go ahead and disassemble this. Okay. Here's the back part of your trigger assembly. Here's the actual hole that that third pin in the rear holds together. Right behind that is part of the trigger connector that goes in there. You're going to put your Glock tool in there and push it through. Starts to pull out. It's a little difficult to just pull out with your hand, so you can continue to use your Glock tool to push it through. And be careful, don't let it go flying like I just did. Okay, when that's out, we're going to compare it to the Lone Wolf 3.5 pound trigger, which you have right here. From the side view, you can tell that they are significantly different designs on them. When you flip them over, they are significantly different. So now we're going to go ahead and install the Lone Wolf 3.5 pound trigger. It's going to go back in just like we took the other one out. You can see the groove for it right there. So we're going to go ahead and put this end in. And go ahead and push it down. Okay, after you push it down, you don't really have to use anything to push it down other than just the force of your fingers. Then we're going to replace the rest of the trigger assembly and connect it to our connect the spring to it. Okay, to put this back in, it's easiest to put the part where the spring is in first. Turn it like this and slide it back in. Okay, so like when we were talking about previously, this tab connects on that trigger connector we just put in. Before, it held it up pretty easily. Now, it almost doesn't stay up by itself. Again, this is where you're going to get your trigger pull from and the ease of it. And again, the 3.5 pounds from Lone Wolf. It is a different design, and that's why it's going to be like that. If you can get it to stay and connected while you're putting it back together, that's great. If not, you can actually hold it while you're putting it back together in the frame. Sometimes when you hold it, it catches just like that. Holding it actually may push everything back into line, as you can see. Okay, so it's together like that. We're going to take our frame, and I'm going to go ahead and hold it as I push it back in. Put that end in first, line up your trigger, push it down, make sure everything feels pretty good and it's in there. And now we're going to go ahead and reassemble. After you put your trigger assembly back in, you're going to go ahead and put this piece back in. It just slides in. And then we can start putting our pins back in. Take your roll of tape. I like to start with the top pin that I took out first. I like to put that one in first. And again, you shouldn't have to use a mallet or anything like that. They should just push through. You can almost push it all the way through with your finger. The last little bit, use your Glock tool. Then you want to put your slide release catch back in, and it has a spring. You're going to put it in the groove. Okay, so you put it in. You can look down through the hole if you're able to and make sure it looks somewhat lined up. Once you get it started, lift up your slide release up and down as you're pushing it, and it pops all the way through, just like that. Then you can use your Glock tool just to line it up all the way even on both sides. Looks good. Again, you can check your slide release. Finally, you're going to put in your back pin. Again, all of these should almost just push all the way through. You should use your Glock tool just to even them out on both sides, just like that. Now you're going to put your slide back on. And there you go. It's back together. And when you test out your trigger here, what I found is that when you pull it to the breaking point and then you pull, you can't feel a significant difference until the very last second. Once you get to that breaking point, and then you can feel it. If you pull the trigger fast, You really can feel it, and that's where you need to be careful. If you take your gun out with someone that's not used to it, you need to let them know that it is a light trigger, so that way when they just pull it fast, it's really, really light. So they're not scared and they're prepared to handle the weapon correctly. Again, this is an easy mod. Doesn't take much time. Again, I would suggest this, after talking to Personal Defense. We really feel that this needs to be a range gun or a fun gun. We wouldn't suggest it for personal defense at this point because of the trigger being so light. You don't want to be in a situation where you're in a hurry, you get your finger ready and you pull on it, goes off unexpectedly, anything like that. So you want to be in somewhat of a controlled environment with this weapon now because that trigger is so light. Please rate and comment if you have any questions. Thank you very much.